Okay, and we're live. My name is Bradley Chapman, and welcome to Raw TV. So, a very exciting webinar we've got planned this evening. It's a great pleasure to be joined this evening by Ian Perry from Remedy for Business. Ian is quite a talented guy, and if you think I talk fast, then Ian has definitely got the upper hand on me on this one. A fantastic guy. This is a fantastic opportunity for you to meet a man that can help not only with startup businesses but move businesses forward. A guy whose company is slightly different from the ordinary, but I'll leave that up to Ian to run through that. What we're talking about tonight is preparing a business for sale. Now, many of us, when we start out in business, we've got this dream and this aspiration of going to business. We have these ideas, we feel compelled to act, and then we start our business 9 times out of 10. We start in the front room of our house or in the spare room of our house, and then we tend to grow our businesses and move forward, and they move on. And X percentage of us, survive and grow and thrive, and become very profitable, and a few of us unfortunately fail. So, in terms of the business, when you start out and you've got these dreams and aspirations, are you actually thinking about the exit route that you want, and what time frame you might want to exit the business? I.e., you want to sell your business. Do you want to sell your business, and at what time? So, in thinking about your startup for your business, something we do fail to consider is how, when, and under what circumstances we might sell our business. But if we are looking to sell our business, there are so many things that we need to do to get our business prepared for sale. And this is called getting your house in order. And Ian's going to run through very exciting suggestions and ideas of things that you can do to get your business ready for sale. I've worked for a couple of companies previously and had a business myself where I've prepared it for sale. I've had one company where I wanted to sell the business entirely, didn't sell the business. I ended up taking in an investor and kept going with the business. But it must be a very exciting time for any individual that's grown a business, that's built a business, and then you've sold your business, or you're preparing your business for sale, and you've exited, passing on a company that will continue to run. So absolutely great stuff. Just before we go into that, and I pass across to Ian, Raw Business, who are we? We're an online business and entrepreneur networking company. We've got thousands of members who are becoming more connected every day. We offer a mixture of marketing, advertising, and networking for your company. And we also publish a leading inspirational business magazine called Raw Business Magazine. And we've interviewed some of the UK's highest profile entrepreneurs like Doug Richard, Max Clifford, Richard Farley, David Gold, Jacqueline Gold, to name a few. And all these people are very interesting people that have gone through the whole expanse of being in business and potentially selling businesses as well. We are moving our business forward every day, just like yourselves. We're learning from our mistakes, and hopefully, as a collective of entrepreneurs, we want to make less mistakes. We can only do that by coming together, by networking, sharing our thoughts, sharing our ideas, and perhaps sharing some of our deepest fears that we may have. And if we share some of our experiences, then perhaps we can make less mistakes as we move forward. But it's not easy talking about that. It takes quite a lot of confidence and courage, but by doing it, it does set you free, and it will help you to move your business forward. In any case, we're chasing a business dream, just like you. We are everyday people, as the title suggests at the top there. Everyday people achieve extraordinary things. I'm about 2/3 the way through writing my book, which is based upon my life experiences and what it takes to be successful. I'm still chasing that the dream to become successful. 2011 is a very important year for me and for us and for you. So, please feel free to register at rawbusiness.com. You can go there after the webinar and register free and join our network and get involved and get yourself connected. In the next couple of weeks, we're going to be restarting our face-to-face networking events in Chelmsford. We're going to be running those every 2 weeks. So we'll be sending out some invites, and we're looking forward to having some high-profile entrepreneurs come down as key speakers, and obviously some of our members will be speaking as well. Our networking events are quite high-paced, energetic. We do a mixture of speed networking. A speaker comes on, and we do a few nibbles, etc. But it's a great laugh, great people, and you come out connected and you learn some new things, of course. So, who is Ian Perry? Ian Perry trained as a chef from school, so he's wicked at pasta and steak and cooking up these fantastic bits and pieces. I bet his family loves to cook. Do you still cook?
Not as much as I should.
Not as much as you should, but you're still a dead hand.
Yeah, but keep the hand in, yeah.
Fantastic. Yeah. Went from cooking to cooking the books and became an accountant.
That's an old accountant's game.
Cooking the books. Worked his way up in the financial ranks to a finance director. He's a very experienced guy with numbers. spent 25 years working within the SME market, and mainly in engineering and manufacturing. And it's funny, the last couple of webcasts we've been speaking about manufacturing, import and export, currency, and all these sorts of things. So great to have Ian here. He's an accredited advisor to the IBD group. Do you want to just explain what the IBD group is, Ian?
Yes, it's a nationwide network of advisors. There's about 300 guys up and down the country, all from different technical backgrounds, and we're just linked by an email system. So it's a good source of expertise if you happen to pick up a client that's quite niche, or just come across something that you're not sure about or never come across. You can fire an email out and somebody out there will be able to help you.
So a support line, fantastic.
Absolutely.
Okay, well, without further ado, today's title, Preparing a Business for Sale. It's a great pleasure to be joined by Ian Perry for this particular show. Raw Business, look, we have such a great mixture of people on board that have supported us, that have worked with us. Like any business, we're not perfect. We're trying to get the business into a perfect situation, but it takes time, energy, and lots of love, care, and grit, and the sweat. But without you, without your support, it wouldn't be possible. So thank you from the bottom of my heart for standing by us and supporting us during our business growth. And it's a great pleasure to welcome to the scene Mr. Ian Perry from Remedy for Business. We're now going to pass across the controls to Ian and put up the first slide. Away you go, Ian. Thanks for joining us.
Excellent, Bradley. Thank you very much for the introduction and for the opportunity to actually get involved tonight. It's always good, so thanks for the opportunity. What I'm going to talk about tonight is getting your business ready for sale. In the current climate, there's going to be a lot of business owners in the next 2, 3, 4 years that are going to decide, that's it, I've had enough, I want to get out. Now is a good time for me to call it a day. And it's important that you get the best value for that business when you want to sell it. In order to do that, you need to make sure it's in the best possible shape when you come to put it on the market. So we're not going to consider the legal aspects tonight with lawyers and what they do as part of the process. We'll look at what you need to do, or what areas you need to look at to get the business ready in the best possible position, leading up to the point where the lawyers take over and the information goes out to third parties. The key thing at the very beginning is to have an overall objective of what you want to achieve. Ultimately, that's got to be to get the best after-tax sold value for your business. In order to do that, there's 2 key parts of that. One, the old adage, you need to sell at the right time. And secondly, you need the business in the best possible position to get the most value for it. Now, during that process, you'll need to call in various professional people, from the tax guys at the beginning to lawyers and perhaps recruitment people as part of the process. So it's important that you build that in at the very beginning, know what expertise you're going to need to bring into the business, and use companies that have got a track record of doing exactly that. When it comes to getting a value for the business, ultimately it's going to be what someone's prepared to pay for it. But the important thing to realise is that as a small business owner, if you walk out the door, you're taking all the value of the business with you. So it's important that you have some sort of succession plan so that there is actually something to hand over to somebody else. Depending on how complicated or complex the business is, it could take a year to get it into the shape that you particularly want it. It could be a couple of years. So you need to look at it in those terms. You don't want it to appear as though it's a panic sale that's got to be done immediately. I try and use the analogy of what you do when you sell your house. You can sell it immediately and you'll get a poorer price for it. Or you can make best use of the resources you've got to make it look as attractive as possible. And it's exactly the same thing that you do with your business. You dress it up to be as good as it possibly could be when you come to put it on the market. Normally you would do some sort of SWOT analysis at the very beginning. Look at the strengths and weaknesses, the opportunities that the company has at that moment in time. It's a good exercise to go through for the owners of the business and for us working with a client potentially to actually understand where the business has come from and where they are at that moment in time. Once you've done that, you can then prepare a very basic business plan based on the strengths and weaknesses and where you foresee work needs to be done to take that business forward. It's again a very useful exercise because then that will identify areas within the business that you need to look at as part of the grooming process. Even if nothing has to actually be done, you need to consider those areas. One of the first things, the important things that needs to be done at the very beginning, is to bring tax advice in. Now that may well be your existing accountant's tax advisor, or it might be a third party. You want somebody a company that's been through it before, so that they can look at the personal tax, the business taxation situation, and know that at the very beginning of the process what you're trying to achieve by going through the grooming of the business. Capital gains and inheritance are transaction taxes normally borne by the company selling. Stamp duty tends to be paid by a purchaser, like you would for your house. But if you structure the deal in the right way from the beginning, it is possible to actually mitigate some of the effects of the stamp duty. So you can actually make the deal look more attractive to a potential purchaser. So that needs to be one of the fundamental bits at the very beginning of the process. The second part of it is probably the most difficult and time-consuming. It's finding a successor for the owner of the business. When they walk out, who's going to take over the reins? Without that, the business has no value left. A potential purchaser will want to be buying something, and if all the knowledge is locked in the head of the owner walking out the door, you've not got much value left. So finding a successor is quite difficult. How you go about it will determine what type of sale you want. Is it going to be an external sale within your industry? So you'll be looking at perhaps recruitment agencies or headhunting type companies. Is it a family-run business? In which case there might be another member of the family that would want to step up to the plate and take it forwards. Is it going to be a management buyout type thing where you'll have somebody from within the business team that you'll promote through the ranks and let them take it on? You tend to do that right at the very beginning of the process, because once you've brought somebody in, then you've got to actually bleed the owner dry, get them to pass over all the knowledge and experience they've got of the industry. And you might need to train that particular person. Even if they come off the shop floor, they'll be doing a completely different job running a business to what they were doing before. So you need to allow time for them to develop into the position, to get fully trained up, and to be able to be confident and able to take the business forwards. Not only do you need the right person at the top, you also need the right staff in general. A potential purchaser will be looking to buy a good team. They would want them to be well trained, competent in what they do. And that's quite an important part for a company at this stage, because the world moves on very quickly and training requirements often get overlooked because you're wrapped up in the business. So it's important at this stage that the owners of the business look at what staff they're going to want going forwards and whether they are at the right sort of level for that particular job. It might be the situation that perhaps a couple of the people would want to retire over the next couple of years. Under those circumstances, you're going to be looking at recruiting somebody else. They again might have their own training requirements. So you need to have a training plan in place to make absolutely sure that all of the workforce are as good as they potentially could be, and with the right mentality to want to take the business forwards with the new owners. We'll touch on the due diligence part of the equation a little later on, but one of the legal areas that a potential buyer will look at will be things like contracts. So while we're looking at the staffing aspects, it's a good idea to make sure that the contracts are actually in place, that they're up to date, they're legally binding, and that the staff handbook is likewise is up to date and has got all the legal requirements in it. When it comes to the actual staff within the business, it's key that they are brought in as part of the process. They will know what the overall objectives of the business are. They'll see new people coming in. They'll be seeing the old boss a little less often. So they'll know that the business is going to be changing hands. And you're going to want their cooperation through the process to make it happen. So make sure that they're kept on board and fully informed as to what's going on through the various different phases of the equation. Now, from my own personal experience of buying companies and from being an accountant, I've learned that if you buy a company, your reporting timetable doesn't extend any. You still have the same requirements on you. So having a poor IT system in a company that you buy could put you off a purchase. There's nothing worse than not being able to get the information out of the system, or it take too long. Or worst case, you've actually got to replace the system very early on. So it's important as part of the development of the business going forwards that you identify what you want from the IT systems going forwards, what information you want from them, and do they need to be upgraded? Is there another version that will be an improvement in the information you get off it? Is it actually time for complete change of system? If your market has changed, looking forward, you might want something completely different. Now's the time to consider it. Once you've done that, again, there may be a training issue. So why you need to allow yourself time in the whole process. This new system or upgrades to the system, there'll be various different people of the organisation that will need to be trained and brought up to speed with it. It's a good time at this point to actually look at the business processes. If you want to make changes to the way the business runs, now's a good time to put that in place, coupled with putting a new IT system in. So there's nothing worse from a purchaser's point of view of buying a new company and then having to spend even more money sorting the IT out. There's a danger when an owner's looking to get out that the financial performance can drop away as the drive goes a bit. And at that particular time, it's even more important that you're able to push the business forwards. Any evaluation of the business is going to be based to a certain extent on the operating profits. You want that profit to be as high as possible. So it's important that you drive the sales through and don't let things slip. As part of that process, you might look at how the company accounts. Accountants are very good at saving you tax by making you able to claim for things to reduce the profit, thus paying less tax. If you're wanting to sell a business and you want your operating profit as high as possible, you might want to look at the way you account for certain things. You might want to change the structure of the business. If you've got several companies in a group that would put a purchaser off, you might want to consolidate them. Likewise, you might want to break bits out of a central company into satellite companies and sell them separately. That in itself might mean you've got to change the accounting. You want at least one clean year's numbers to give to a prospective buyer. It looks far better if you can say, right, these are the good numbers, rather than we've done this and this is what they should look like in a year's time. A purchaser is going to want to make an investment in the business and they want to be a major player in that market. So it's a good time to benchmark the business in relation to other competitors in the market. How do you stack up against the others? If you're not performing as well as some of your competitors, find out why not and see if you can improve the standing of the business as part of the development and the grooming process. Now, any order book is going to add to the value of a business, but it's even better if you've got an order book of good customers. So at this point, doing a marketing plan is a good idea. It doesn't have to be very complicated and technical, but it allows you as a business to look at where the business has come from, where it is at the moment, and what it wants to do going forwards. In the current climate, coming out of the recession, your market's probably changed. So are your customers the same as they were 2 or 3 years ago? Are you going to get to them through the same routes? We've seen a big increase in social networking, and it wasn't there perhaps 3 or 4 years ago. So a marketing plan will enable you to identify where you want to go to get new customers. As part of that process, you can then look at your existing sales database and identify what a good customer is. Normally, that won't be the biggest. They tend to be the biggest percentage of turnover, normally one of the poorer on the margin, and they tend to pay you later. So they're not necessarily a good customer. So once you've identified that as part of your marketing plan, you can then push hard and try and attract more of the good type of customers. The other part of the marketing plan, as well as the customers, will be the products and services that you actually offer. You might decide that now is a good time to replace or upgrade some of your offerings to the market. A lot will depend on how you see your market developing and where you are in your particular market as a business. If you're known to be innovators and state-of-the-art with all your products, you need to make sure that you haven't got some old rubbish in there that's going to drag the reputation and the image of the business down. Where are you in the market? If you're known to be top-end, very good quality, very good customer service, you need to make sure that the product or services that you're able to offer going forward actually matches up to that. And now this part of the process is a good time to review what it is that you're offering to the market. Your reputation will be important at this point, and you're going to make sure that you maximise how you're seen within your market. The due diligence we mentioned earlier is quite a long process, and it's the checking that's done by a potential purchaser to enable them to work out what they're really buying. To go back to the selling of your house, it's the point at which you would get solicitors in to do your searches. They'll dig around and make sure that if you buy a house now, there's not going to be a sewage plant or a big road appearing at the bottom end of your garden in a couple of years' time. So the purchasers will want to have a dig around, look at legal situations, sales and purchase contracts, employee contracts, share ownership, any insurance outstanding issues, and anything that they might not like and that can affect the value of a business. And it's important that you do that yourself as a seller. Normally, a seller's due diligence involves a lot less. I would recommend that you use a full due diligence as though you were a purchaser, because you can then start to ask yourself the questions that a potential purchaser is going to ask you. You can then identify issues that you wouldn't like in their position and put them right. There's nothing worse than going through the process and a deal could be compromised or fall flat on its face because something's come out the cupboard. If you're aware of potential problems, sort them out. It'll make it much easier to sell a business and will take away a negotiating point. So part of the due diligence exercise is to make sure that there's no stumbling blocks that could either stall the deal completely or make it less attractive to a purchaser. Now, how the outside world sees you during this process is actually quite important. The staff will see people coming and going and working with members of the internal team. And it's important that the message that gets out is that the company is undergoing change. It's onwards and upwards, and it's a positive thing that the existing owner is going to be retiring from the business to pursue pastures new. So it's a positive move. The PR aspect of that needs to be pushed, because if you don't, rumours can start very quickly. We've all been in a situation where the word on the vine is that a company is suddenly about to go bust, the wages weren't paid on Friday, and the end is coming. When in fact you're actually working for the company and you know that's not the case. So it's important that the message that gets out is that it's business as usual, the business is developing for the future, and the outlook is rosy. Particularly because customers and suppliers of the company will be aware of changes going on. So they'll want to be calmed down and satisfied that the relationship is not going to suddenly break down. Now, your reputation in the overall market is one of the things that a potential purchaser is going to be interested in. They want somebody that's at the top end of their market with a good product and a good reputation for providing a good service and good products. It's important that the branding is consistent throughout the whole organisation. There's nothing worse than having good literature, a good sales pitch, very good products, and a website that's 10 or 15 years out of date, full of products that have been discontinued or out of date. So this part of the exercise is good to actually look at the whole of the branding and what is the message that is sent out to a prospective buyer. You want consistency in everything that goes out. That gives a good impression to a potential purchaser that you're on top of the game and you know what you're doing. This is also a good point to actually look at your relationships externally. There's nothing worse from a purchaser's point of view to buy a company only to find out that customers and suppliers don't want to deal with you anymore because there's ongoing disputes. You've got a poor reputation in the market for paying people. So now's a good time to actually look at that aspect of it. Make sure that if there's any bridges that were burnt, that you renew some relationships. Ensure that the credit control is on top of, and that you're not falling behind with payments. And if you have a poor reputation in the market for paying on time, then you can do something about it for the future. That sort of thing will put a prospective purchaser off if they find that they're going to have to fight with purchasers and customers at a time when they've just bought the business and want to be ramping it up. Now, the old nut to crack is who is going to be a buyer for the business. If it's an SME, chances are it's going to be somebody from within the company, the market, probably a competitor, or somebody that has got a vested interest in that particular market. It's a good time to go back through the records and see if there's anybody that's shown an interest in buying the business over the last couple of years. They might have come in and say, you know, when the time is right, I'll be interested in talking to you. They might be prime candidates for it. Looking out for companies that are perhaps on the acquisition trail within your market. Is there a company that's starting to buy out similar types of companies to you? They might be interested in what you've got to offer. And if it's a competitor, then that might be the time to actually pull a confidentiality agreement together and start talking seriously to them. Generally, it's going to be quite a small market of people that are going to be interested in what you do, which is even more important that you dress the business to look as attractive as possible, because they will know you from within the market. Finally, towards the end of the process, consider the fluffy bunny things. What will a site look like when a prospective buyer turns up to look at the site? There's nothing worse than a car park full of potholes, full of water, weeds growing out of it, tatty looking windows that are rusty or rotten, curtains or blinds that have seen better days, windows so dirty you can't actually see through them. So it's important that coming back to the brand image aspect of it, that those aspects are looked at, that you spend a bit of money like you would on selling your house. You know, you'd sort the garden out to improve its curb appeal. You paint the outside, paint the inside, get the garden landscaped. You'd spend a bit of money to make it look good from the outside. And exactly the same thing applies to a business. We're going to make it look attractive for a purchaser coming in. Even if you're an engineering or manufacturing company, the reception still needs to look welcoming and clean and tidy. So there's a lot to bear in mind as you go through the process. Some areas will need more work than others. Some it will just be a case of looking at an area. If it's okay, that's fine, you can move on. But experience shows that once you've done the business plan, these are the types of issues that you need to go through to make sure that the business is in the best possible shape. The key thing to take from the whole exercise is plan it. If you don't plan an exit strategy, you won't get the best value for the business. You will need to bring in expertise. So use people with a track record. Get everybody completely focused on those objectives at every level of the business. And only then will you be able to reach the ultimate objective for the owner, and that's for them to sit on the beach having a beer. So I'd like now to pass you back to Bradley, and thank you very much for listening. If anybody has got any questions, more than happy to field them. But I'd like to bring Bradley back in if I could.
Okay, Ian, thank you very much indeed. Wow, what an insight that is into preparing and selling a business. Well, it's not an easy thing, is it, selling a business? There's lots of things that you need to think about, lots of preparation to do. But I'd imagine selling a business is one of the most exciting times that you can experience, because all the energy and effort and skill required in growing a business to make it successful will place you in a position to be able to sell your business. We've had a couple of questions in on the excuse me. We've had a couple of questions in. One of the questions is, do I have to have a forward business plan in place in order to sell my business? And we have to put that across to Ian to answer that one.
It's always a good idea, because as part of perhaps a year or 2 year plan, you're looking ahead as part of the grooming process to make it look as attractive as possible. And if you can prove to a prospective buyer that you've got a plan in place to improve the business and where you expect it to be performance-wise in a year's time, in 2 years' time, that will make it look far more attractive to them. Showing them historical numbers is great, but if you can show that you've done a marketing plan, there's some logic to your forecasts going forwards, it will make the company look far more attractive to a purchaser. Absolutely.
Okay. I mean, with regard to that forward business plan, I mean, lots of companies work on the basis where they may have contracted customers for a period of time, maybe working with government or some other contracts that they've procured over a period of time. That surely would give them some greater strength in forward predictions, wouldn't it?
It does help, but in the current climate, there's no guarantees of keeping those types of contracts. You know, the public sector contracts are under strain at the moment, so you can't assume that what you've got going forward will be what you have now, which is one of the reasons for doing a marketing plan, because you can anticipate changes that are coming. If all of your business is geared towards the NHS at the moment, you might need to realign where the business is going.
Okay, fantastic. And there's another question in there on the screen. I'm just going to put my arm behind you there. Sorry. How much could it cost to get my business to help? How much could it cost to get help to sell my business? I would imagine that's going to depend on the size of the business and the involvement of the business. But again, let's pass back to the specialist.
It will completely be determined by the complexity of the business for a start, and also what areas need to be looked at and improved on an ongoing basis. So it's difficult to put a figure on it, but what you would do right at the very start is look at all the types of areas that you would need to look at and produce a mini budget for the next year, or perhaps 2 years if that's the length of the project, to actually see what it would potentially cost you to make it happen. then you can decide actually whether it's worth spending that money. Are you going to get it back at the end of it, or do you decide actually no, we're better off just pulling the plug at a certain moment in time, and we'll just take the P&L reserves in the balance sheet at that particular time. So it's not always the case where you're going to get more from a business by going through the process. You need to look at whether financially it's worth going through the grooming process and whether you actually will get more out of it.
Okay, I mean, from an accounting point of view, let's say we have a board meeting and we decide as a collective to sell the business. If you're looking to sell the business at point A shows X on your balance sheet, presumably you're going to be spending X to prepare the business for sale, the things that you discussed. So when a prospective buyer comes in to look at your balance sheet, would they take into account obviously the amount of money that you would have spent preparing the business for sale, and perhaps net that back to say that the probability would have been higher in fact, but obviously we've been preparing the business for sale. Is that something they will take into account?
Yes, they will do that as part of their due diligence. They will look at your financial figures and they will take out exceptional items. And one of those items will actually be the owner of the business, because what you'll try and do over the period of the process is to take their costs out of the business, so take their salary and any drawings or dividends out of the business, so that you're back to clean sets of numbers. And a potential purchaser will do that with any cost that you've incurred to get the business to where it is.
Okay, fantastic. I just want to ask you, Ian, with regard to succession planning. Obviously, you mentioned that the person who's the head of the business is 9 times out of 10, not 9 times out of 10, but a lot of times has got all this information in his head about the business, and you have to, in part of your preparation for sale, make sure you extract that information so the company can function as effectively or better once the head of the business, the MD or the CEO, has exited the business. So what should you consider doing? Obviously, you said finding the right person. That's one aspect. You've got to find a person with the right skill set, the right attitude that fits in with the ethos of the company and the values and the visions, etc. But at what stage should you consider someone coming in to take over from a CEO or an MD? In other words, if I was coming to take over from your business would be prepared for sale, I'd need to be picking your brains, finding out how you run things, what you know, what you do, and I'd need to extract the things out of your mind and get them onto an open plate, so that the succession planning can be effective. At what point do you think someone needs to come in to do that?
You will need to start that process as soon as you've decided that you want to sell a business and start this year or 2 year plan in place, because you need to be drawing that information over a period of time. It's not going to happen overnight. So whilst you're training them up to the level that is required, you're also picking the old owner's brains. So that it's desperately important, I would say, that happens as soon as possible in the process. And to make the existing owner happy that by getting the right person in, it might be inconvenient and difficult for them to accept, because somebody else will be taking it on and they'll do it their own way. They'll run the business differently to the existing owner. But the motivation for them is to get the right person in, knowing that they are going to get the best value for the business at the end of it.
Fantastic, Ian. Thanks so much indeed for that. Some final thoughts from me then. Before we do that, I'm just going to give you again a refresher of Ian's contact details. Number 9, Tollgate Road, Cable St Mary, Ipswich, Suffolk, IP92HB. You can contact Ian directly on 01473 310 833. Email info@remedyforbusiness.com. Website remedyforbusiness.com. Just before I go on to my final thoughts, I wanted to ask Ian a little bit more about Remedy for Business, because I understand from Ian, from talking before we went live, that there are a number of other services that Remedy for Business can offer to help your company. It's not just about the thing we discussed tonight, preparing the business for sales. So Ian, do you want to just give a few blasts on some of the other services that Remedy for Business can help raw business members and other people that may be watching this video?
Sure, yeah. Tonight I've concentrated on just the selling of the business because of its topical nature in the economic cycle. Remedy has been set up as a one-stop shop for owner-run businesses. We fit between the accountants and the banks. We're not going to replace either, because we can get more hands-on with clients on an operational basis. And we'll do as much or as little as they want. It can be just a day a month mentoring, through to getting a business ready for sale, access to funding and business angels. It could be continuity planning. If the company's had a fire or a flood and they want a business continuity plan put in place, we can help with that. In addition to the nationwide network that we mentioned, we do a lot of local networking to build up strategic partners, to have all the skills that could be brought in that I haven't got. So with my financial background, I'll do all the financial, strategic, some of the marketing bits. But beyond that, I'll identify other requirements, and I need good people surrounding me to bring in. So it'll be IT bits, personnel, health and safety, could be some of the legal aspects. So it's using the best possible people who are experts in their field at every step of the process, so that we call it remedy taking care of business. So we can take care of it. If I can't, I know somebody that can help me. We can actually help the client.
Fantastic. Okay, that's really, really great. And just some final thoughts from me then. Tonight's webcast, thank you so much, Ian. It's been a very clear, very precise, and very open discussion about preparing your business for sale. I've learned quite a lot of things tonight, and I think with webcasts that we put out, if you can pick one or two nuggets from each webcast and it can help you in thinking about your business for the future, then we've done our job. I found it very, very encouraging to think about it. Also, I found it a little bit daunting because as you grow your business, it's quite challenging, and it's quite challenging to sell your business to make sure your house is in order.
You actually made a very good point earlier on, actually, that you should have an exit strategy in your mind when you start a business.
Yeah, an exit. Well, Stephen Covey says begin with the end in mind. There's 7 habits of highly effective people, and one of those things is thinking about your exit plan. I mean, I must admit, I didn't think about an exit plan initially when I started the business. I had this dream that we'd be able to sell the business at some stage and it would go on to become something, but we're nowhere near an exit strategy. We're still trying to get over the three-year pain barrier. But you've got to consider it.
You have to have it in the back of your mind, because that's part of your long-term objective all the time. Is where do I need to get to? So you've always got that in your mind.
I mean, at some stage, inevitably, you're going to be selling your business, whether it's that you've completed the journey or you're coming to retirement. I mean, the business needs to be sold at some stage for you to realise that windfall asset, I suppose, as an MD or a CEO or a member of the board for all the efforts that you put into growing the business.
Well, it gives you a timetable yourself. You might decide, actually, when the profit gets to £1 million, I'm going to call it a day. So you constantly, for a number of years, you've got that in the back of your mind, and as you start to build up to the period where it looks likely that you're going to get to that point, then you can start to put a plan in place, or decide, actually, no, I want to keep going. But at least it gives you a choice.
Okay, thank you very much indeed, Ian. So my final thoughts today, wrapping up are this. When we consider starting our businesses, we must consider an exit route, as Ian said. And as Ian said, putting a time frame on an exit route will give you a goal to achieve and a time frame from which to do it. And I would imagine every day you can look to see if you're on track of reaching that goal. And if not, you fall behind, you can change things, adjust things to bring yourself back on track. But that's the end game. The end game must be to sell the business, and at what stage. And one exciting thing about selling a business, I would absolutely love to be in a position to have sold a business, for it to have moved on, and for that business still to be doing well, 2 or 3 years after I left. And I am actually probably one of those guys where I've got lots of information in my head and someone would need to pick it out of me. So, and I'm up for that, and I'm open for that right now, to be honest with you. So thank you very much indeed, Ian, for what's been a fantastic webcast this evening. Next time on Raw TV, we've got David Blackburn, who's a business doctor. He's on tomorrow at 6 p.m. I believe David Blackburn's going to be a remote webcast, which means he'll be at his office, we'll be at our office. Very, very interesting guy. And in fact, David Blackburn I'd spoken to pre-Christmas about doing Raw TV, and he wasn't sure whether or not Raw TV was right for the demographic, if you like, of the client that he's looking for. I'm sure we'll share a funny story tomorrow between myself and David Blackburn about Bloomberg TV, who contacted us in December. And subsequently, we're talking to David Blackburn via one of his clients. So quite a funny story, and I'm going to needle David Blackburn with that forever and a day. So listen, thank you very much indeed for joining us. That's it for us this evening, with great thanks to Ian for joining us. I'm sure we'll see Ian on Raw TV again, talking about another subject, another aspect of remedy for business. In the meantime, obviously, my book's coming out hopefully in a couple of months now. Very excited for me to be writing this book. There's some great information there about my life and the challenges and the successes, etc. And that should be out in a couple of months. Thank you for joining us. That's it for us here at Raw TV HQ in Chelmsford. It's goodbye from me, Brad Chapman, and it's goodbye from Ian.
Ian Perry. Good evening.
Thank you.